webinar series that I've been doing around internet marketing. This is number 4. I think we're going to have anywhere from 6 to 8. There's a few more that are in the queue right now that we're trying to wrap up, and hopefully we'll have information out on those shortly so you can see what we'll be doing coming up. A few of them will be around SEO and some just general how to add things to your business or get your business going through internet marketing initiatives. But today, before I get into that, I guess also if you go to zimrock.com, under the About Us, there's a webinar tab. And under the webinars tab, there is registrations for future ones that will be posted there, as well as the replays of the past webinars. So feel free to go and look at those at your leisure, and hopefully they will be beneficial to you. Today we're going to talk about social media, and basically just talk about it from maybe just a little bit different angle, just talk about some specific things. I know everybody is aware of social media, obviously, and the impact it has and can have, but how are people using it to their advantage? What's the best ways, and to just, I guess, to engage or start using it if you haven't been working with social media for your businesses at this point yet. Like I said, we want to talk about it from maybe just a little different from a business perspective on the successful users, what they're doing, and maybe how you can get into it. What I always like to start off with is just kind of the definition side of it and kind of the why this is important. I won't try to spend a lot of time on this, but want to make sure that we're kind of on the same page on what it is that we're going to be talking about today. But basically, social media marketing, what is it? To me, it's certainly all of these things, but probably the one thing that it is most is it is a conversation that happens on the internet. Any website, any property, any Facebook page, anything that you have, Twitter, all those things, if there's any chance for an interaction or a communication or a conversation, that becomes social media, and then social media marketing for us, how to use that and that conversation and that traffic and all the different opportunities for these things. We'll go into these things in a little more detail a little later, but branding and promotion of products and engaging your consumers and all those different things. So, like I said, in simple definition terms, anything that we, like I said, that causes or promotes a conversation on the internet is, to me, social media, and we treat it that way. In each one of the webinar series, I always kind of try to do a few slides on basically why this matters, or I call it the who cares, but why you should be interested in something like this. And obviously, with social media, everybody's aware. If you're awake and alive, you're aware of what social media is. It's become this this gigantic wave that doesn't seem to be receding. Now, people are obviously getting different levels of use, and I've heard we've used terms, and I've heard terms used like social fatigue and things like that, where because you get so much of it that it begins to, like, you almost begin to kind of ignore it on purpose or something like that. But even with that, everybody engages in certain things that they actually like or it makes sense to them. So the ones that usually they probably back away from are the ones that maybe aren't probably going to be their sweet spot anyway. It's not something that's going to be maybe a benefit to their business or even something for their personal life that they're interested in. So we do and will continue to engage in the things that we think are valuable, beneficial, fun, entertaining, educational, whatever those things are. That's the kind of things that people will continue to engage in. These stats alone are pretty staggering. When you think of basically, of everybody that's on the internet, 2/3 of them are involved in media platforms, social media platforms, and that could be these or any others. There's of course these are the most common ones and the largest ones, but there's a whole slew of other things out there that people are using and engaging with every day. And of course, Facebook, as the 800-pound gorilla or 800 million user gorilla, it has it still continues to grow. They're predicting that sometime in probably the next year or so, if not less, they'll hit the billion user mark. And that to me is just crazy when you think of it. It would be if it were a country, it'd be the third largest country in the world. You know, more than twice as large as the whole U.S. So its reach and popularity is, you know, it's undisputed. Um, but the idea is that you don't have to obviously touch that many people. You just want to touch the people that are most interested or in your segment or in what you're doing. So, um, you know, it's pretty important to you know what you're doing from a branding perspective and a customer perspective and potentially a product and service perspective. So we got one little note come in here. I'm getting a note that I'm having some audio issues. It says it's cutting out. I'll try to maybe I had tried a new microphone here, and hopefully it's not a problem. But keep sending notes if it continues to be bad. I'm monitoring from another area, and it sounds like it's being fairly consistent. So just keep me posted. Hopefully, as we go on here. But thanks for the update. Okay, just talking about sheer time. I mean, if you think about it, says here Americans spent 53 billion minutes on Facebook in 2011. And what's interesting about that in 2011 is that was just in 1 month. Um, so when you start to look at you know, stats like that or information like that, that interaction or that conversation could be with and about you and what you know your business, product, services, etc. are. And so it's again, it's how to engage correctly with the right people at the right time, maybe when they're interested or active in what you're doing. So um, I just thought that you know this was very interesting. And also interesting, if you break this number down, it basically says that if that's 3 hours for every man, woman, and child in the U.S. Now, obviously, every child is not on it, so the numbers are even higher. So, but it's more than just a few minutes. It's hours every month that people are on social media platforms every month. This chart is a few months old, but the main thing I wanted to show here is the staggering rise of certain products. And as you look at the bottom, you'll see the first and lowest line is the old MySpace and when it started and kind of its rise up and then ultimate fall, which was incredibly unfortunate, I'm sure, from their perspective when they look at Facebook now, where they were the first ones, they had the lion's share, they had the market, and basically just did not deliver on what the population wanted. They kept delivering things that they thought they wanted or would be good for the product, but they weren't listening to their audience. And as you can see, Facebook starts you know, a couple years later, and they kind of rise together. And then there's that fall off of MySpace, you know, right in here. And of course, Facebook just you know goes off the charts and continues to. And then you see, of course, Twitter comes in here, and Twitter's on the rise and continuing to rise as well. But these other social properties, which is also interesting, is like there's probably this Orkut is actually a Google property. It's another social sharing. You can share information and people, and it's actually got a pretty good base that most people haven't heard of. This Q Zone is actually a Chinese social site, and then of course Stumble On and Mix and Dig and LinkedIn and all the others are there as well. But the interesting you know part from this slide perspective is you know the amount of users and the amount of daily users. And I think it says it's 310 million daily unique visitors you know at one time. There's just no other place that you can get that kind of exposure. Not even an ad on the Super Bowl will touch you know probably that many eyes from a daily basis perspective. So I mean it's pretty amazing that social is what it is. So when it comes down to basically, you know, social media, one of the big issues always is the big debate over, you know, is there truly value, or is it just, you know, using a term as a time suck? Does it just eat up people's time unnecessarily and um, unvaluably, I guess would be a good way to put that. So we'll jump into a couple of pros and cons here, but the idea of you know this slide certainly is that you can get pretty good value for a fairly reasonable cost. Now, the cost may not be, or I should say the cost would be in a perspective of not just money, but it can be time as well. So the cost could go higher if you were looking at it from a time value versus a money value. So we'll certainly explore into that a little bit. So obviously there's two camps when it comes to social media. There's kind of the naysayers, and then we'll call them the Pollyannas. We'll talk about both of these as we go here. But the naysayers, obviously, every time you have social media conversations, people have pushback. Sometimes it's a personal thing. They'll just say it's a waste of time, or it's for the kids, or it's unimportant. It's just for people to share recipes and fashion, and there's no place for business. And you've probably heard of all these terms before. Um, and there's probably some validity in there. But it's certainly not taking a broader view of that audience and that opportunity that's out there. So I would say, I understand some of these, but I would say also would disagree with a lot of them. On the converse side, the Pollyannas of the world say it's social media will replace real life networking, and social media can replace your website, and it's free marketing, and you get all these results, and it's the answer to everything. And kind of like the naysayers, I would say the same thing here. I don't buy into this side either, but somewhere in between there is a good blend, and I would say it's closer to this side than the naysayer side, just because of the sheer volume and touch and reach. If you do things right, it can only benefit your business and what you do. So, as we look at this and talk about it, um, no, it's not. It's not always the 100% silver bullet. It's not, but it's also not a complete waste of time. And like I said, it's somewhere in between, probably closer to a real business answer when you choose the right properties and things like that. Um, and these are some stats that will back up that is closer to call it the Pollyannas again, that is closer to reality, that there is a good opportunity here. And these are some companies that are out there that are doing good things. HubSpot, Harp Social, and SME, which is a Social Media Examiner. They kind of spend their time watching and looking and making sure of what the internet's doing and what people are getting. And these stats kind of speak for themselves. Well more than half of the companies and businesses that use social media say they have increased their business because of it. Um, Social media efforts have generated more exposure to their business, almost 90% of the time in everybody's business. So, especially from a branding perspective, obviously that can be very valuable. And most people plan to increase their marketing activities across social medias and probably their use of Facebook in this case. I did a recent session on Pinterest, which is out in the replay area also of my website. And if you haven't seen that, you might want to take a look at that. It's pretty interesting to see, a kind of a really young new social site taking off as fast as it is, and that there might be some opportunities there that you wouldn't normally think about. Again, Pinterest, will be probably polarizing in a sense, because of it. Right now it is predominantly female based, and therefore a population is going to say, oh, it's just it's going to be things about entertainment or fashion, or whatever is most popular at the time. But that's really not the case. There is all kinds of different ways to look at interesting things that could be tied to products and services. Things that green initiatives and all the different things that go on there. Those spark a lot of conversation and community involvement. So anytime there's a chance for a communication around anything, it has a potential business value. So um, and of course 90% of social businesses say SMM, social media marketing, is important in their business. I'm surprised it's not even more than that. I mean, important, I guess, is a relative term, but diversity is something that we always preach as well. As don't just do one thing, do many things, do the right things, but don't just rely on one avenue. Excuse me. So basically, it kind of boils down to one other thing too, is that we always talk about websites and things like that as your kind of your checkbox of that your credibility, that you're there, you have a presence and that sort of thing. Social is kind of becoming the same way. Um, customers, and probably some of your customers, actually want you on social media. They actually do. That, these numbers again, spell that out. But the idea being, when they go to look, if they are interested in what you're doing, your products, your services, or whatever else that is, when they go to look, they're going to look at these different channels and different avenues, and they're going to find you there, or maybe not find you there. But either way, it is one more thing that proves that you are active, you are engaging, you are bringing information, and whatever it is that you can help them with whatever they're looking for. They're the problem they're trying to solve, or the solution, or the efficiency they're trying to gain, or something like that. Yeah, again, it's always bringing value forward. So again, the customers are looking to you and looking for you on these social media platforms and sites. So um, again, a lot of people say, well, hey, I have to do it because it's a me too, and that's kind of the comment here is, yes, it's that, but it's so much more than that. It's not that you just have to do it just because everybody else does it, but you need to do it because your customers actually are expecting or wanting you to do that. So. And bottom line, customers are rewarding businesses that do social media. I mean, rewarding them with potentially more business, and in a lot of cases, it could be a big referral scenario. So when we look at social media, it's not always about communicating with maybe that customer that is on the social media with you, but it's also their connections or their contacts, similar to our outbound networking and things like that. As I mentioned in the previous slide about the Pollyanna saying, replace networking, and the answer is no. I mean, it's never going to replace the human interaction and the need for conversation and those kinds of things, but it can facilitate new conversations, and I guess that's the point of the networking aspect, or the networking value of social media, that it can promote that next tier of connections that you might not reach in some other fashion. So it's pretty important to, I guess, as I said, reward your customers with that. This is just a information slide that just, again, more kind of social proof of what's going on out there. On the right side, it's got some Facebook stats, and on the left side, it's got some Twitter stats. And it's, in this case, it's more talking about kind of the brand or the brand awareness. But of the users, I mean, almost 60% of people have liked a brand. We are known as a population that do like brands and or certain products or certain services, and it could be a certain business or a certain service. So if someone were in in realty or something like that, or a realtor, they could become their own brand, so to speak, and that brand gets shared when some say, I know somebody, or I know this person's great, they do great things. And it's that kind of thing where they begin to like and share that, and once people like it, it goes viral to their friends or likes and family and that sort of thing, and then that goes beyond them, and it can spread very quickly. And the same thing to go with mentions or sharing video or stories or anything else. I mean, there's some pretty high numbers of adoption of sharing of information, especially across Facebook, and Twitter's the same way. People have tweeted a brand or retweeted a brand. All those things are just more social proof that people are out there talking about it. Of all the people that are on there, and we showed the numbers of how many people are on there, this many people of them are actually engaging and doing things. So um, it's just huge is what it does. So how can bottom line is, how can your business benefit from it? We mentioned these things earlier, but increasing an engagement with a customer prospect in a positive way is irreplaceable, because it is a word of mouth world. We are definitely in a situation where you want to have that social credibility, or just credibility, so when someone comes to you, you don't have to sell yourself or your business or product. It's already been kind of sold for you when someone makes that recommendation. So the beauty of again, social, when it's when a referral comes or that recommendation comes from somebody else, that's going to increase obviously the awareness, and then the potential engagement and engagement reach of what you're doing out there. It says affordably boost brand awareness. That kind of goes with the same thing with what I was just talking about. It can obviously make a brand truly go viral, and when it goes from viral through people that are in a trust circle, it's invaluable what that can do for you. It says boost website traffic. I mean, this is always kind of the byproduct of a lot of initiatives, whether it's tweets or Facebook or Pinterest, or you're doing pins. They're all tied typically back to some web-facing property, and that most likely is a website. So it's whatever your website's trying to do, whatever that call to action is, whether it's information or capturing something, or giving out something, or just making them aware of your products and services, it is going to be the benefactor of a lot of the social initiatives. Growing an email list. I mean, everybody knows about email list growing and all the, doing newsletters and all the different things you can do there. But social is a great way to build your email list very large and fairly quickly. And then lastly, I've always talked about the influence side of just internet marketing in general. Anytime you can kind of become that authority, and I talk about this when we talk about LinkedIn, maybe creating a group around whatever your skill set is, whatever your core business is, and then you begin to, just feed the masses with information, tips, techniques, and information. Be a curator of other data that you can share with them. You become looked at as kind of the authority in your industry, and that circle of influence again can be incredibly positive in from a business perspective. Just continuing on, a few other areas that that can benefit your business. You can obviously promote things when you have audiences that are actively engaged and interactive with you on some sort of periodic basis, whether it's daily or weekly. When you have an event or want to promote an event, it's a great way to do that because it also can be shared and put out. Finding new customers, we talked about that again from a, it's not just who you know, but who they know, and the next tier of people that people find. And when they go out and search for things, they'll find things on this medium as well as your traditional search engine. Um, and because of its conversational and community orientation, you can very quickly address if there is some negative things that come out, whether it comes out it happened in the news or something else, or if it's just somebody wrote a bad review somewhere. You can pretty much take it straight on, and address it. And most people, instead of trying to ignore it or shy around it, when people see that you heard it, you listened, you reacted in a positive way, that can even go further sometimes than if you had no negatives at all. People like to see, people, nobody's perfect. Everybody knows that. And when something goes wrong or something doesn't go perfect, that's okay. But it's more important maybe how you reacted to it. And if you can convey that in a social, you know, medium, that's obviously a great way to get that done because you can touch a lot of people in a short period of time, and it gets promoted again across the internet. And there's a nice side of responding to things too, as we know, when you look at review sites and things like that, things drop as the new reviews come in. So you can technically also, the bad comment or the bad review can be slowly pushed off the screen, so to speak. So there's some real positives of addressing it, and you might get some comments back at your comment and how you addressed it and things like that, which are always very positive as well. Last one obviously is just customer loyalty. Once people see that you are interested in helping them, solving their pain, giving them efficiency, whatever that is, they'll become very loyal. Um, all right, so basically, what are the challenges that basically you face when you come into looking at social media? Um, these, we've touched on each one of these a little bit, but there's a cultural resistance sometimes. You have to deal with, just the natural pushback that may exist out there. If you do launch, media program at your business, you're likely to encounter, some sort of pushback, even some from your internal teams potentially. You just need to be prepared to work through those issues and always choose the right plan or path for your social media so you can, somewhat make it more measurable. And we'll talk that's a few more points down here. But the next one is always a big one that I promote or push a lot when I talk to people about social media. I said, people say, I need to get in there, I need to do it. So they throw up something and then they don't do anything with it. It's usually a lack of resources. They don't have time themselves or don't have somebody else to do it or help them with it. But it does require activity. Not a ton, and I'll mention that a little bit later as well. But the reality is it does have to be somewhat consistent in what you do. Because you do begin to condition or engage an audience in a meaningful conversation, and if it just goes cold, it'll look that way. So you want to make sure you're always kind of moving along. Of course, it's always perceived as it's too difficult or it's too overwhelming. There's too many things. I don't know what to do or how to get started and that sort of thing. And we'll address a few of those on maybe kind of the 7 things that people are doing. Um, Measuring ROI is not easy. That is absolutely true with social media. It's hard to truly measure, am I getting a return on investment, especially if you're spending money on your social media initiatives. But there are ways to do it. You can track and you can watch and you can just see trends of traffic versus sales and things like that that will be at least easy to correlate. So you have to be kind of aware of those things. And I say devising a method to the madness, and basically it just means um, don't just go into the scatter approach and just try to hit everything and just throw everything around and see what happens. Do a little bit of research and understand maybe where your audience might be and where they might be engaged. And it can be as easily as listening first, going out and starting some accounts, go follow some other people, watch their conversations, see who's talking about what conversations are being had. And that way you get a better indication of what's going to be potentially effective, I guess, for you. So, all right, well, that was probably a little longer preamble than I wanted to on kind of the why you need to do this kind of thing. But let's jump into maybe like I said, maybe there's some areas that we can talk about that you can, if you haven't engaged yet, maybe you can start into it in a few of these and make it worth your while. Number one is obviously is I talked about the planning piece. Go to where your people are, and it's not just go to where the people are. And there's a big distinction there, a big difference. The folks that have been most successful with social media, again, are going to where their audience is or where their like-minded potential clients hang out on the internet. And as I mentioned before, some of the best ways to get that done is go listen and watch first. I mean, there's some great tools out there. Um, One I call like Hootsuite. I guess I could type that into the chat box, but it's a free tool. I think it has some paid versions as well, but it's a great way to consolidate multiple social accounts, and you can also do um, monitoring. You can set up, I want to monitor this keyword or something like that, so it'll give you um, you know, it'll show conversations that are happening around your industry, your product, your interest, your service, that sort of thing. And like I said, it's an easy way not to spend a whole ton of time going all over the place. It'll kind of consolidate things for you. There's more tools like this too. I think TweetDeck is one that I think Twitter actually even bought that you can use. But look at those tools and see what might work for you. But monitor the conversation before you jump in, because like I said, number one, the key success for people is they've gone to where their audience is. So the conversation doesn't fall on deaf ears, or there's enough critical mass there to make it work for you. Number two, people that proactively, we call it cross-pollinate, but use multiple things to get the message out. If you happen to be a brick and mortar and actually have some sort of storefront, the first one on the left here shows they're like little tent cards, but it has information about the social aspects, and you can even put QR codes on these types of printed medium where people can obviously zap their phone and go right into your Facebook, go right into your Twitter, or retweet something, or go to your Pinterest page or whatever that is. But utilize anything that you have, even if it's not a brick and mortar. If you do any kind of collateral and that sort of thing, always be socially adding the links, the URLs, the domain names, the QR codes, all those things on any kind of printed material that you'll be working with. The middle one basically is really nothing more than just a signature. If you think in the amount of emails that are being sent around today and then resent or reply to all or forwarded and all those things, I mean, you've got a great opportunity to put all of your social links on there, so people can actually click right on them and go straight to your social sites. I always tell people at least promote the one or the two or the three that are most that you're most engaged with or most active with, because again, email is such a prominent part of our world. It's an opportunity to really get yourself out there. And then of course the last one, which is basically just saying anything that any kind of, you want to encourage people to do anything. Like I said, that you popped in, there's a sign that says do Foursquare as a check-in engagement tool. So if someone shows up and hey, they got free Wi-Fi here, have the people check in. If you're using Foursquare, let people engage with you no matter where they are. With you. And a lot of these things are, they can be a little bit more retail based, but it doesn't always have to be retail. It certainly can be, like I said, every collateral, and I haven't, done it yet, but in my next batch of cards, I'll probably put a QR code on the back, use the back side. It's, you got some realty there to use. It's usually blank. But have it be something as simple as, you can, someone can be sent to your mobile page, or, pick up a free offering, or you can get on their SMS or their text messaging list or something like that, where you can start to engage with your audience in other meaningful forms. So the point of this one is basically just, obviously use multiple platforms. You use all the things that are available to you out there, and you'll see the folks that do this in the best way. They're everywhere. They're, all their stuff has always got their social media stuff in it. I'm just going to still use the term fan gating here. It says use fan gating, and now we're going to talk about Facebook for a little bit. This has changed with the new timeline format, but there are options that exist, and we're going to talk about that. But the idea behind fan gating, and if you go back to, I think it was my very first webinar in the series, we did on the timeline for business page change, that became effective and automatic and mandatory. I think it was on March 30th, so it's been in effect for a few weeks now. We talked about the changes in this and how that changed for people, but it's how it's still possible to do that. And the idea behind fan gating was nothing more than basically incenting people to like you, or grab something, if they liked you, you unlock some content or a download or something like that. Facebook obviously changed their tactics with the timeline change, and they don't want you to basically be promoting, especially on the main cover page or the main cover photo, any kind of promotion, any kind of asking or telling somebody to do something for something else. So they're really trying to get back to that a real visual, appealing system, but at the same time they've given us some other options to do that, and I'll show you some examples of that here. This is kind of the old versus new fan gating idea. If you look here to the left, the Dr. Pepper, that was an old screen used to look like that. I know it's very small. I had to kind of stick it over there, but basically it's saying, it's got a red arrow pointing up to the like button, and it's saying, like us and we'll, do something great for you. And that was working actually very well. And I think Facebook decided that it wasn't really in with what they were trying to do as a social site. They didn't want it to become such a business promotion. They're okay with business being active, and of course they are, generating lots of ad sales, so it's very important to them. But they also want to, create that user experience again that's higher, or more enriching, for everybody. So what you see now is I grabbed SME, Social Media Examiner's page, and I just highlighted a couple things here. It says like networking clubs. This is they call the app area here. You can do all different kinds of apps. This is where your photos, videos, number of likes, and all that goes up here, and you can change the order and where these go. Photos is always first, and can't change that one, but everybody else here you can change. But what you can put in here is you can go to, and did I have the I put it in the next one. I'll show that in a second. So I guess we're talking about the likes in this one. So let's talk about down here where I got the like pointing over here. What you can do with this is you can actually create a wall post, and you now have the ability to pin it, or they call it make it sticky, or you can have it there for 7 straight days. So what I'm promoting people to do is, if you want to promote something, you're going to give away something or promote a like or something like that, it is uh, a good way to do it, because it's right below. You can't put anything up here on the big cover photo, but you can put things here and in here to promote something. You can promote a contest, and I'll mention that as a thing that we like to do as well. But this is the area now you have to take advantage of for your encouraging your likes and that sort of thing. Like button is still very prominent right here, but it's now, if you want to truly promote it with an incentive-based situation, you have to do it in the pins. You can also do milestones here or promote an event down here as well. But the idea being, you can make it be top of page and stay there for 7 days at a time if you want to. So fan gating is not quite the same, but you can still do it in a wall post area by doing incentives and doing likes down here. I talked about, collecting email and opt-ins. People, people have always said the money's in the list, or I've heard different terms like that. There is definitely some truth to that. If you have a engaged audience that you are truly going to give good content to and good information, newsletters, etc., there's nothing. Obviously, the bigger the list, the more the more prospects you are reaching, the better off you're going to be, and because you're going to now condition that audience with information. Again, we can't do that. Like if you look at here, here's the old way, where you could actually have opt-in form, literally right on the front page of the old site. They've kind of shied away from that again, and they've done it down into here. So what they've done is I've talked about this networking clubs, for instance, for the lead capture. If someone clicks here, they come up to this page, and I'm sorry this is so tiny, but basically I pointed a little arrow up here, but this is the capture. They go here, they get here, you can have actually the same kind of lead capture form with name, address, and all that kind of stuff on this page, but you also have the ability to have them log in with Facebook or Twitter or some other social account as well, and you can capture the information that way. There's lots of different tools and apps out there that can help get that done. So the idea is that we still want to capture and grab email opt-ins, and it's an important part of the business that you can communicate with your audience, but you just do it a little different way. You do it probably through an app, and then some incentive down here that they'll want to join your list because of X, whatever you're going to do for them. So again, promotion of the emails is also very important. Um, Promoting, running social promotions, contests, etc. People love to get in things where they can win something potentially, or if they can, do a survey or do something that they can, promote their thoughts or what they're interested in and what they want to do. It's a great way to do that. It engages customers. If you want to have, you can have their photo contest, and they're going to be throwing photos at you, and like I said, it generates a conversation and engages your audience, and potentially they'll obviously you're going to push your brand up higher, and or if you're trying to promote or sell something, there's an opportunity there to do that. This happens to be an old screenshot, but I just wanted to show it as an example. Sony ran a Sony giveaway day, and you can, if you registered and put in your information, and you could win something from them. This was almost pretty straightforward, just bribing for an email or some sort of contact information, but they're very effective. They work, and again, people like them if it's something they're interested in and does fit within what they're trying to do. So a lot of companies are doing, like I said, promotions, specials, contests, surveys, all the different things that can promote that. There's there as well. And this one, it seems and sounds simple, but it's probably one of the most important pieces of information that I can, when I talk about social with people, it's huge, and then that is basically making sure it's the human aspect of social media. That's what social media really is. Again, it's not replacing the face-to-face networking and that sort of thing or the conversation, but it is an addition to that. So, but it does have the same characteristics of a conversation, meaning that you want to show whatever your personality is or whatever you project in your business, your product, your services, your personal. Let that come through. If you are very serious or very formal, that's okay to be serious and formal because it does project what it is that you're trying to project and what you do. Social media has also spawned a whole, I guess, generation of new words and slang and all the things that have come out of that. One of the terms I've used before is to show off your peopleness. Now, peopleness is, of course, not a word, but from a social perspective, it's kind of apropos because it does speak to the social side of it and the interaction and how we all, use slang and become, I guess, more personally attached, and that does add a more personal note to it. So when you engage, again, be all these terms that are up here, be authentic, be yourself, be consistent, be responsible, be original, all those things, they all apply, but they also still need to be all about you and what you promote and what you do. So the best companies that are promoting social out there, they're not just, grabbing a marketing slogan or trying to sell something or pitch all the time. They're truly engaging and being engaging with their, with their community, and it is probably one of the most effective ways to use social media. And then lastly, it's number seven is diversity. There's so many different options out there. YouTube is huge. I mentioned Pinterest before. It's going off like crazy, but they can be very personal because obviously YouTube is very video based and Pinterest is very image based. So when you're doing anything that's very visual, it's dangerous ground sometimes that you walk on because you want obviously the images to or the videos to represent who you are, still have them be appealing or fun or funny or educational or whatever that is. But you run the risk of obviously creating controversy too. And some controversy is okay if it's not um, too far, where it's going to offend or turn people completely off, or they don't even want to comment or engage. But it's okay to bring up a topic that's a challenge and people want to talk about, because if it is something that's important to you or your business or something else, it's worth talking about. But YouTube is the number two search engine behind Google in the world. So there's a lot of things that you just don't want to ignore when you start off with this. This is like bonus number 8. It's not really this top 7, but number 8 in this case is advertising. Advertising in the social media sites, and pretty much every social media site now has some sort of advertising available to it. And what I really like about advertising in these mediums is it's not typically what that we promote. We like the inbound permissive based marketing where someone's actually searching for us and we want to get in front of them, where advertising is what we call interruptive or outbound marketing. But the big difference with this, it's not like a TV commercial where everybody's stuck with it and whether you want it or not. Because of the ability to reach specific demographics and geographic areas, we can really zero in on our target audience. It can be much smaller, the people that actually see our ads or our impressions, but they're going to be much more likely to click on your ad because it is more focused on one of their interests. It's in their geography, it's in their age bracket, whatever their, maybe it's a minority, whatever that is. Our ability now to truly laser target ads is one of probably the real advantages when you jump into the advertising side of social media, where you can truly reach your targeted audience. Advertising is always a tricky area because there's a certain amount of people out there that just won't click on an ad because they know it's an ad. We found that with Google AdWords and some Facebook ads and things like that, where they just, no matter if it's interesting or they find the image or the text, appealing, they just, it's an ad, somebody's paying for it, so I'm not going to do it. For whatever reason that is, it's a reality, but it's still, again, okay because there is a population that does click on them, and they can be, again, very laser targeted and focused at exactly what it is we're trying to, promote in this case. So basically, in a sense, that's what the social media, the people that are out there being most successful are doing. It's not, like a trick or anything black hat or anything, like while they're doing this neat little thing. It is kind of the blocking and tackling of social media. It's the fundamentals. As I mentioned, it's basically engaging with your audience, being realistic, collecting a list, making sure you're getting likes and that sort of thing. Use diversity, go to different things, be consistent with what you do. Do all those different things around those properties, and that's where the most success from social media comes in. So that's where we push people towards that when we have conversations. I shouldn't say push. We actually engage people to say what is the best way to talk to your audience and get in front of your audience, and let's choose those methods first. You can expand as you go as you see success, but there's always the best way to begin and start. We did capture a few questions early, so we threw those in here. The first question was basically how much time will I need to spend each week on social media, and that's always the $1,000,000 question for people, because as I mentioned earlier in the objections, or people saying I don't have time, or it's too complicated, or I don't understand it. It doesn't have to be as overwhelming as it appears. Again, SME says basically they're seeing a lot of businesses getting success with as little as 6 hours a week, and that doesn't have to be you're doing something every day. It could be you do an hour here, hour there, do an hour over the weekend, whatever that is. But it doesn't have to take a lot of time. to see the results that you could potentially get from social media. Well, I get new customers. Again, the same social media examiner study said basically a quarter of everybody that started a social media, some sort of interaction or campaign or activity, a quarter of them actually got clients in the near term, like right away. That's a pretty staggering number. There's not many marketing campaigns that could say you're going to get a 1/4 of the people who start get something almost right away. But the beauty is as you begin to engage and build trust, build authority, and do all the things that social media can do, 80% say they get clients over the long term, over the next 6, 12, 18 months, whatever that term's going to be. They've all had success by engaging, by being there and consistent and continuing on with what they do. Always a good question is which social platform should my business use? I mean, and there is no answer to that because every business and every audience is potentially different. We talked about users. Where are your users? Where are your competitors? As I mentioned earlier, go out and listen and look. This is the trick to this basically is, use search functions on networks to gauge activity. Who is out there? Where are they? What industries are people looking at? Watch the tweets, watch the wall posts, watch the things that are going on. And if it does seem like a audience that is interested in what you're doing, then that's really the right answer. It's going to be that. Now, obviously, you want to start looking at the big boys first. I mean, certainly Facebook is a natural place to start because it does cross so many, uh, you know, demographic, geographic, and cultural boundaries. So there's all kinds of conditioned. There's a very large conditioned audience out there, I should say. So they're a good place to do that. But also, if you have the time, the resources, consider multiple channels. I think that's always the thing for us is the diversity component is you don't have to start them all at once, but start one as you get kind of in a rhythm. Try a second one fairly quickly because you can begin to get that kind of exponential growth when it comes to different social aspects, because some things will take off in certain social platforms and some won't, and you don't always know which ones will or won't. How can I avoid the mistakes is always the big one, that most businesses make. Well, as I mentioned before, have a plan. And that's the biggest one is go after it. Um, up front, know exactly what you're going to do. Kind of almost lay out your editorial schedule in a sense. Make sure what you're going to do, how many blog posts or how many wall posts or how many tweets or those kinds of things are you going to do, on a consistent basis to make that work. Um, and it says don't obsess. This does seem almost contradictory a little bit to number one, in that you don't want to be, I guess, over prepared either. There's a situation where spontaneity and naturalness is really important to social media as well. So when I say plan, prepare, I mean kind of just at least have your game plan or your kind of the stick man image of what you want to do. Now when you go out and do it, you can kind of be a little bit more nimble, I guess, in how you engage and how you promote, and it's not always easy at first, but it is something you should try strive towards it being kind of natural, I guess is the way to put that. This is a big one, obviously, is engage. Don't let it be the soapbox or the pulpit. You're not standing up above and talking down to to the people you want to reach. Engage with them, join with them, and that's kind of what number 4 says is basically is talk with, not at the people. Make sure what you're talking about is relevant, and it's a two-way communication. You can promote. It's okay to promote certain things, but you always want to use it sparingly, use it at the right times. Maybe there's 8 tips for every one promotion. There's some percentage or number that makes sense for your business. But again, it's back to that, don't just sit and sell, don't preach, don't talk at, don't talk down to, engage, be natural and engage with your audience. And that's why number 5 is here. Number 5 says no interns or no nepotism. And what I really just mean by that is if people don't understand your business or know your topics the way you do, they're never, and they don't have your personality either, obviously, they will never be able to truly convey, your business or your area or whatever it is that you're trying to do. I mean, interns and when I say nepotism, I mean like my son or daughter they're crazy on Facebook. They know all about this stuff, so I'm gonna let them do stuff like that. These people can know it and know how to use it technically, and that's fine. That's one thing, but that's not what social media is about. It's not about knowing how to use it and where to put the hashtag in the tweet. Albeit important, and you need to know those things. But what's really important is the content. Content again is always the king in everything we do now. Content is going to be the main driver of what happens to a campaign, to an ad, to whatever it is we do. Um, it's got to be good. It's got to be something that people want to see, want to share, want to talk about, or is important to them. And we don't always seem to get that when we try to pass off our social media management to someone who doesn't know our business. Lots of firms out there, including us, we will do social media management, but we'll do it in such a way where a lot of the content comes from the business or the people that are involved there. There's a lot of conversations to understand first exactly what it is that you're trying to promote. What's the goals? What's the culture? What's the typical message? What's the form of the message? What's the intent? Those sorts of things we do heavily up front. So these are definitely things that you can do to avoid. Um, what to consider when evaluating the efficacy of social media. It is always, we all are getting into it from a business perspective. We all know that. We're trying to generate more activity, more business. We want more customers. That is the ultimate goal. But the ability for that word of mouth, that generation, that strengthening of loyalty to your brand with your customers and prospects, and your ability to add value truly are much more important than just out there trying to make a sale. So this isn't, technically a question, but it's something to consider when uh, look to evaluate what you're trying to do with social media and what you want to, achieve with it. So basically, kind of in closing, people are out there talking. Are you part of the conversation? Social media is not a passing fad. Will it evolve? Will it change? Absolutely. Pinterest jumped out of nowhere. Things are going to always come along that are new and everything else, and Facebook's always changing. A lot of times they make people mad because they're always changing, but the reality is they're trying to stay more current and fresh and always add that rich experience for a user. So the intent is always good. And bottom line is that says 53% of people on Twitter recommend companies or products in their tweets. More than half the tweets that are going around are promoting something. And they're not really promoting it from a standpoint of here, I'm promoting this, but they're talking about it. It's in the conversation. So that's what we do. We don't have to promote. We don't have to say we're selling this. We can talk about it maybe from it solves a pain perspective, or it creates an efficiency perspective. If you take your conversations at that angle, you're going to be much better received and much more likely to be shared. So that's the reality of it. And the last thing basically says is that we, as just a consumer, will mention brands. This says 90 times per week. I'm not sure who counted that, but this agency did that. But they basically say that when we just have interaction with people, not just on social media sites but everywhere, we'll have these kinds of these brand or services or product conversations without even really thinking about it. And social does the same thing. It picks up on that we already do naturally in our lives, and it just makes it then enhanced and potentially gets to a broader audience. So that's basically the prepared material that I have for you. I'll open it up for a few questions. I know I went a little long here. We're just a few minutes before 1 o'clock, and I want to make sure I stay true to your time and your calendar. But feel free to punch a question into the lower left if you have anything, and I'll be glad to answer questions for you. Okay, someone's asking about, the fan gate. I mean, how can that work? How do you give something? Well, there are some different scripts you can use. There's tools out there, and if you just do some searches on them, there's ways to where you can, if you make a post, you can have somebody click on something to get, or I should say, if you say like us, then they'll see some different content. It's a little tricky sometimes. It's not quite the same as it was before, but there are, like I said, there are tools out there and scripts that you can use in Facebook. You can put in like, they call it a reveal sometimes. Look at, do Google searches on reveal or fangate or things like that, and you should be able to see some things that you can use. And certainly you can ask me, and I can share with some things that we've done as well. Someone's just saying, if I were to start, what's the one thing you would do? Well, I think obviously the one thing is Facebook. It's just got the largest audience, it's growing the fastest. From a pure, if you were to engage and try to do almost not maybe necessarily advertising, but try to generate just massive amounts of traffic early, Pinterest right now is actually very interesting because it's got a very receptive audience, and the conversation and the volume is truly staggering. So if someone came to me, let's say they were maybe more of a national firm and trying to sell something, um, I'd be hard pressed not to say take a real hard look at Pinterest and spend some time there engaging and pinning and getting the viral aspects of it. Do some ads, drive some ads to the to what you're doing just to build some of the interest because it's gotten so big. It's just amazing. Someone's basically just saying, when you do a tweet, you only have you basically have 140 characters. So you're right. You can't say much, so you're not going to be talking like a wall post or something like that. But typically, what the tweets are is you're going to be just saying, hey, this is something worth checking out. It's usually a tweet is usually driving somebody to something else, which is going to have the detail. So obviously, just make your tweet engaging, or like you did, like if you were sharing, like that last slide said, I'm going to share a brand or something with just a friend or a family. However you would say that, you kind of tweet it the same way, but then you have a link or a hashtag against something they can go search on or go to see more information. So that's what I would say with Twitter is it's, that's the best way to use it from a business perspective is naturally. Okay, well, it is 1 o'clock. Certainly go to zimrock.com if you want to I have a contact area. You can pop a question in there if we didn't get to it today, if I didn't mention something. But I want to thank you very much for your time. I know time is precious for everybody, and keep looking for future webinars from us. Go check our website out for the replays. And as always, again, thank you very much for your attendance, and look forward to talking to you in the future. Bye. And forgot to mention this. If anybody is still on there and listening, no, they're not. Dang it. Looks like everybody jumped off. Social media. I have a free download there for you. I guess there are a few people left. I will just mention real quick, in the left side on the shared files, you can download a document I created, which basically just gives basically a couple hundred tips on social media and how best to use that. So thanks again, and look forward to talking in the future.